Well, welcome to Walking in Spirit and Truth. We are so glad that you've joined us this evening, and we are continuing our journey in Psalm 91 and what discovery we have made and what reassurances we have discovered in that so far. So, anyway, who am I? My name is Sandi Craig, and you see my husband, John Craig, over there. And he is presently at Life of Worship, and that is the congregation we co-pastor.
It's very interesting, and you're going to want to stick with us not only through this broadcast because of the great things we're studying out here in Psalm 91, which, by the way, is just really amazing. I've said it so many different times before. Psalms 91 is for our generation, and therefore this is why we're breaking it down, because as we break it down, you understand why it's for this generation. But I'm going to tell you this, as we look at it, I don't know that anybody that calls themselves a believer can actually claim Psalm 91, unless there's certain things that are part of their lives. And so we're looking at those details. But also, in the second half of the show, we're going to break away from here on YouTube, and we're going to go over to where we can have uncensored news. You want to stick with us on that for the Craig Report and find out some things that maybe we've been lied to. Maybe we've had things happen that we didn't know about and we need to know more about. So we're going to be talking about some of those things later on.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. No surprise, actually. All right. So let's get going. Let's jump right in and look at Psalm 91. We're going to read the first 4 verses of Psalm 91. And so if you would get your word out and turn there with us so that you can participate. Hey, and if I'd love to hear you guys give a shout out. Let us know if you want to in the chat room, or otherwise give us a thumbs up too. Well, John is turning to Psalm 91. We're excited to hear from you guys. And
all right, so Psalm 91, beginning with verse 1, says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to Yahweh, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For it is he who delivers you from the snare of the trapper and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you may seek refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and bulwark."
All right. And you have different versions. Some might say he shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Another version says, with his pinion he shelters you, and beneath his wings you take refuge, a shield, a buckler, his truth. All right. So let's start breaking down some words. Anyway, we're going to look at the word cover, and the Hebrew word is Cakak. And how you pronounce that, of course, in English it might sound like a bird, caw, but that's not what you say it in Hebrew. It's number 5226, and it's sakak, and it's to hedge or fence about, to shut in. It also means to block or overshadow, to screen, stop the approach, to shut off, and to cover. So you hear this picture, to cover and to lay over, but it's so much more. It also means weave together. But I want us to dig a little bit more deeply into this word, sakak, because let's look at the root. And it's a primitive root, and it means to entwine as a screen. Okay, so picture something entwined. So I would think of a natural fiber making a screen of some sort, but also by implication, it means to fence in and to cover over, figuratively to protect. Okay, well, I thought that's what cover means anyway. Well, okay, stay tuned. We'll figure it out. So in the King James Version, you look at cover and defense and defend and hedge and join in and join together and set and shut up, all of those things. But we cannot separate that protection and that covering up. And I want us to go now and look at the letters of this word. And first we have a samach, and a samach is 60 in value, but it means pride or conceit, earthly. It also means to lean upon, to hold or support, and can reference the heart of God, heart of Yahweh. Okay, that's the first letter. And it's always good to look at the paleo when you're looking up words. Now, the next letter is kaf, or kuf or kaf, whichever way you want to, and it's the number 20, and it's anointing of the hand on the head. Redemption, it means to bend down, and it also means to surrender. And that word is going to be key today. And the end kaf, which the final kaf, which is again is that number 20, and it's we have that repetition one more time. It's almost like an emphasis. The anointing of the head, hand on the head, redemption, to bend down and to surrender. Okay, saying it twice, it's got to mean something, right? Now, if you put those letters together, just in the paleo, when you say cover, it means when we lean upon Yahweh, when we look to him to help us, and when we surrender our ideas of what things should be, or the way we think things should be, he covers us, and he covers us in his heart. And that's just the first word. Now, surrender, that seems to be a scary word. We think of surrender in terms of war. Are we warring with Yahweh? No, we're not warring with Yahweh, but we do have this tendency not to surrender everything to him. When we become his, it's not about us anymore. It's about him. Now, there's great benefits because he is the one that takes care of us. He is the one when we have enemies, they become his enemies, just as his enemies are ours. So I want us to key in on that word surrender for a minute. We're not going to break it down in Hebrew today, but think of surrender as possibly a burial, so to speak, of our own ideas and agendas, of what we think is our own strengths. That stuff has got to go. That stuff's got to die in order for us to completely surrender before him. But in that, he resurrects something. He molds us and makes us. So all of a sudden, when we surrender, his desires become our desires. And we no longer have this fight in between. Well, I want this. Well, isn't it about me? No, it's not about you. We can't fight Yah's transformation because we're in the process of salvation. We're in the process of becoming more and more like him. We're in this process of complete surrender, and it may happen piece by piece, but then all of a sudden it is finished. And the words that were spoken upon the stake, upon the cross, were an end to a long chain of events that happened. And finally, Yeshua said, I surrender my will for my Father's will. He said that, not my will, but yours be done. Do we say that? That's really hard sometimes because you think, but there should be joy in that abandonment. There's joy to be discovered in every step when we surrender. There's joy if we will take hold of it and not look at it as loss, but look at it as gain, because it is gain. It is gain. And it's that adventure of looking for things to hand over, knowing that with everything we give up, with every relinquishment, we come closer to him and his purposes for us in our lives. It's like this scavenger hunt in the spirit. Yeah. So, Father, instead of saying, oh, I've got to surrender everything, we say, oh, Father, show me what I can surrender to you today, because I want to be under that covering. I want to live out this Psalm 91 and experience your magnificent miracle power in my life. Now, remember what we said when we look at the paleo, it means when we lean upon Yahweh, when we look to him, not us, not our neighbors, not the government, not society, not our jobs, not anything else. When we look to him to help us, and when we surrender our own ideas and agendas of what we think our life should be, he covers us. He covers us in his heart. To me, that's a pretty amazing promise in one word. And yet we have been discovering this all along the way with every word, and every word reinforces and oftentimes restates the previous. And I think he wants us to understand in this day and this hour we live in, he is our source. So let's jump ahead. Let's jump ahead to feathers, okay? So feathers, isn't it interesting that this bird language is being used? Oh, you wanted to say something.
Well, I did before you moved forward on that. Also, I was looking at some of those things. First off, one of the things I was thinking about is how a shepherd has a sheep pen, and that sheep pen is often made up of, it might be 3 sides, maybe a 4 side with an opening, maybe made of stones, but it's oftentimes made with brush. And the shepherd would put the sheep into the sheep pen with, I think of out here in West Texas, I think of tumbleweeds. I mean, you take a whole row of tumbleweeds all woven together and make a wall, but it's not really
Not very sturdy.
Yeah, not very sturdy. But think about it. I mean, the sheep don't know that it's not very sturdy. Just saying. But it's and then the shepherd would lay down in the doorway to protect the sheep. So their sheep are safe inside. No sheep are going to be going in and out. Shepherd's laying down in the doorway. Yeshua says, I am the door. But on the other hand, that I was thinking of when I was looking up these things in the paleo, it was talking about how sock is the root of that. And it means a covering hedge or a thicket of thorns or bushes for protection from the elements or predators. So there you have the cough being that thorny protection. It's a thorn. I mean, it's a picture of a thorn, but when you put them all together, you weave this thorny hedge of protection. We've heard that phrase before, and that's been used many different times. So he will put a hedge of protection around you with his feathers.
To shelter us.
Yeah. To shelter us. And how do we get that benefit? It's just by what you said. I mean, we have to say, you're my shepherd. I surrender to your shelter. Or we can be that black sheep that says, no, I'm not going there tonight, and can be out there all alone for the coyotes to get us. So just saying.
Just saying. Very good. That's really good. So when we go back to Psalm 91:4 again, just to repeat it, like I said, by the end of this study, everybody should have Psalm 91 to memory. But it says, he shall cover thee with his feathers. Okay. With his pinions, he shelters you. Okay. So that shelter and that cover are words that are being used synonymously. All right. So feathers and pinions. It's the word ERBAW, Ebra. Okay. It's number H84 in the Strongs. So ERBAW. And of course, the meaning is feather and wing, but it's actually a feminine noun indicating feathers or wings. And you can describe it as an ostrich. In fact, let's just look at some of the scriptures where we see this word. Let's look at Job 39:13.
So Job 39:13 says, the ostrich's wings flap joyously with the pinion and plumage of love.
Okay. So put that in your pocket and let's go to Deuteronomy, because in Deuteronomy 32:11, it says it's of an eagle spreading its wings to carry its young. Now, to me, when I picture that in my mind's eye, that's a beautiful picture. An eagle carrying its young on its wings, but in the eagle soaring high above the fray. That's a beautiful picture to me. So Deuteronomy 32:11.
That stirs up its nest, that hovers over its young. He spreads his wings and caught them. He carried them on his pinions.
Don't you just love that? To me, a picture myself and Yahweh. I just love that. And then also I want to look at, as Yahweh carried his people, this same word is used in Exodus. That is Exodus, Mr. Craig. Exodus 19:4.
Okay.
That's the second book.
Shemot. Okay. What was the verse again?
19:4.
19:4.
And I'm not.
Huh? I like the 19th chapter of Exodus.
Yes.
So Exodus 19:4 reads, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself.
Again, he's taking this picture that he's doing the work. We're riding. We're getting to enjoy the journey as he takes us there. I was wrong. I'm going to have us look up 2 more scripture because I want us to go to the Psalms as well. And since we've already done Psalm 91:4, where it's used metaphorically of wings of protection, which Yahweh gives us rest under his wings, I want us to look at Psalm 68:13.
Psalm 68:13 reads,
yes,
When you lie down among the sheepfolds, you are like the wings of a dove covered with silver, and its pinions with glistening gold.
So here are the wings of a dove, and they're supposed to be gilded with gold and silver, and that's supposed to be descriptive of Israel's prosperity. Okay, so again, he is our source in all things. Now, I want us to dig down to the root, which is H82 abar, and that is ABAR. And of course, it means feather, but its primitive root is to soar and to fly, which we saw referenced in several usages of this word abra in the previous verses. So when we go there, I want us to break this down a little bit. Let's break it down. And of course, it's spelled with an aleph, a bait, and a resh. And the aleph, which of course can mean Yahweh, Elohim, God, which it can mean echad or unity, unique. And it also has this symbology of an ox head or strength or leader, the strength and power of the leader. We see all of that within that aleph. And then we have that bait, which of course we always know is talking about a house and a family, but it's also talking about his word and his dwelling place. But it can also mean divide or division, okay? So now we have the strength of the leader, the strength and power of a leader, and we have Yah's house, his dwelling place. We also have this picture of unity. Now let's look at the resh, and it is insufficiency and poverty is part of the meaning. I'm not giving you the full breakdown of everything, but it can mean that. And so we have this, the pictograph in the resh is of a head, and it also means head and chief and beginning and highest and the most important person, or even human reasoning versus obedience when our heads are ruling instead of our hearts. So let's put those letters together and see what we have, because we have in feathers that he covers up with strength and power. We become one with him in his house, part of his family, who is head over all things. So let's put those two things together. The previous thing that I said, when we're covered by him, we lean upon him to look to his help, and we will surrender our ideas of what should be. And he covers us in his heart. And in that word feathers, he covers us with his, how does he cover us? He covers us with his strength and his power. And we become one with him, echad, in his house as part of his family. And he is head over everything. Okay, that's a pretty powerful picture already, and it's safety and security. I don't know about you, but think about when you were young. Many had good fathers, and I know some did not, and some had no fathers. But did you feel safe when you were in the arms or in your father's home? I always did. I knew things would be taken care of between my father and my mother. And I know that's not the picture that everybody had, but you felt secure. Well, how much more secure and taken care of in Yahweh's arms, under his feathers, under his cover. But what do we have to do? Surrender. We have to surrender. So but we also, here's the next thing. How hard is it to rest in his hands? Because those little eaglets that are being carried on the wings of the eagle, they're not fighting. They're fighting, they're going to fall, possibly fall to their death. They are resting on the wings. They're resting on the eagle's wings. Our time, our lives are in his hands, and we've got to learn to turn our ears to his voice and our eyes to see him and rest in him. And be still and know that I am God. You know, I've given a great message on that before. You can go look in our archives at our YouTube channel. Yeah, that's a shameless plug. And you go to Life of Worship Amarillo and get there. But we need to learn to pause and calmly consider the circumstances that we're in. And then we get to soar. We get to soar with him. He carries us. So what can we surrender today? What can we get rid of? Because I want to soar. I want to rest in him. I want to soar and be under his protection. To me, that's a great picture. It's interesting. Well, I'm going to let you jump in there with something if you have something before we go forward.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I was looking at that of the paleo as well, and was just thinking about adding to what you had said. And here on my nice little paleo breakdown, it talks about the pictograph of the bait and the resh, the tent representing the family, like you had said, and the resh, the picture of the head, and combining the this is the root, the bar, the root is bar, and it has the meaning of family of head. So it gives you a picture of a head of wheat, or grain of barley or something like that. And so
But it's also exactly what I said.
it is what you said. And I'm just reading what the paleo definition is talking about on this version. And so I looked at it as saying, so this thing called the wings or the feathers, ibar, the root, or well, it's broken down to be the strength of the seed is revealed, or the strength of the sun is revealed, or the strength of the air is revealed. The strength of the air, or who is the air, who is the sun, who's the firstborn, Yeshua, is revealed. But so he shall cover thee with his strength of his son that's revealed. I don't know. I just thought that was really, really cool too.
Very good. Very cool. All right. I want us to go forward and look a little bit closely just at some things on birds, because he is definitely using this bird theme right now. It's interesting that in many species of birds, that both the male and the female will cover their chicks with their feathers and wings. It's not just mama. And that is sometimes we don't think about that. We think that mom is the one that's nesting. In many species, that's not true. Both the male and the female nest. In fact, Hebrew, when we look at Hebrew, there is no neutral gender. Everything is either male or female. So when we speak of a rock, which has a feminine ending, we will call the rock an it or not a her. Just because birds have female and male gender, for the word for feathers it has this male pronominal ending, does not mean that we need to say his feathers. We can even say its feathers, but we also know we're referring to Yahweh too. So I think it's really important to maybe give this a neuter ending, because this is a covering of Yahweh, and like a bird, he's covering his young, but Yahweh has both feminine as well as masculine characteristics. In other words, remember at the beginning, male and female, he created man in his image, male and female, he created them. So we see in the very beginning of Genesis that he refers to himself that he created man in his image, both male and female, because he, in the Ruach HaKodesh, which is that female aspect of Yahweh, as well as the Father and Son, but it's one God, it's one Yahweh, that there's male and feminine characteristics that we see. So when we say his, we may exclude something from the pictorial meaning of what this word has within it. So let's leave it with that. I feel it's really important to understand that this covering, like a bird covering its young, should have both, all the characteristics considered in it, for us to understand the depth of the meaning, because we usually associate the female with caring and nurturing and loving, and we associate oftentimes a man with protection and provision and maybe even discipline. But when Yahweh covers, it's not, he doesn't just do it to protect us. And if we say his, etc., we're missing something. We're missing something, because it's not just to protect us. It's not just to provide for us. It's not just to discipline us. He is also loving us, and he's caring for us, and he's nurturing us. So we see both sides. And so maybe we need to look at things a little bit differently and understand that Yahweh's just not one thing. or we can't just attribute to him this masculine, that's what he does and that's all he does, because that's not true. It's not true at all. Isn't that a great idea to know that within this reference is both the male and the female, the loving, the nurturing, the caring, the discipline, as well as the protection and the provision. I think that's great. So the word here, as we discussed before, was Arba, and we saw that it referred to an ostrich in Job, but it also has the feathers of a dove, which we mentioned that, and even an eagle. But usually it's associated with a dove. And let's look at the habits of a dove. If we just take that one bird to sort of consider and get a picture of what's happening. So both the male and the female will sit on the nest, both of them, to hatch those eggs. And when they are hatched, it's not just mama that feeds the young. Both of them feed those young. And with that, with what is called a pigeon, but they feed them with this pigeon milk or this dove milk, and actually both the male and the female produce it. It's not just the female. So here we have that masculine and that feminine combined. So the chicks don't have any feathers. They have no line of protection. They have no way to feed themselves. They have no way to take care of themselves. They can't even keep themselves warm. It's going to take the protection of the mom and the dad in turn, as they sit on the nest and they bring that full provision, as they love them and take care of them. That's how the only way they will survive. And you look at a family of a dove, and oftentimes you will see one of them sit on the nest, and then while they're sitting there, they don't move. All they pretty much do is blink, and then they switch off. They change places, and then the other one comes up, and they don't move. They just sit and watch and protect and take care of those babies, and they'll do it day in and day out to take care of those, to take care and protect their young. And so you think about that. Those helpless creatures are cared for, and we're looking at this analogy of a bird. How much is he taking care of us? Because when the psalmist follows that bird motif, that he references protection under his feathers, but although that caring and nurturing is there too, it takes two birds to take care of those young. Because what would one do if one could never move off the nest? They would die too. But Yahweh doesn't have to switch off. Hallelujah for that, right? We have his undivided attention in all things, and he takes care of us completely, even if we are completely helpless. And sometimes when we're surrendering everything our own, we do need to become completely reliant on him. And yeah, we still need to move and act and do, but he is there to protect us as we rest in that protection and that caring and that nurturing under his wings. You wanted to say something?
Well, I was just remembering we had that dove's nest on our basketball goal last year. And we were in the backyard, and we would watch them, and there was a nest, and right up next to the hoop, next to the backboard, and that when there were eggs in there, there was always a dove. That dove very rarely ever left that nest. Even when we walked out in the driveway by the basketball goal, generally it stayed.
It just looked at us.
Just kind of watching, keep an eye on it.
They do it they nest there year after year. So,
and then what we had in the fall was a family of doves that all roosted in our big oak tree in our front yard. I mean, it was like the year before, there was just 2 doves. Last year and during the wintertime, there were 5 to 7.
Well, they were busy. There's not anymore. Did you hear what I said?
There's not anymore.
No. Remember, you had to bury one.
Oh, yeah, we did. One did not make it to the freeze. The big Texas freeze. That was very sad.
Joy reminded us that they also mate for life. And welcome Joy and Tammy. And Misty might be in there too. And maybe Joe. I don't know who's there. If you're there, welcome all of you to Walking in Spirit and Truth. So I just think when you delve into the language or even to a word, it gives such an amazing picture of what our role and our interaction with Yahweh and his role for us. And how could we ever be satisfied with just reading scripture, rushing through a verse and going forward? How can we ever be satisfied with that when we've learned things like this, when we discover the treasures within his word? When we look at Erbah and that root, it also has a root of Eber, which means the feathers of a dove, which we discussed, but it had also rooted in the Akkadian word abaru, which is the word for being firm, the word for fixed and strong and immovable. So maybe there's some emphasis on not just the feathers of a dove, but it's a picture of a dove covering its young with its feathers and sitting over them and protecting them, being firmly planted over them, immovable. Remember, I told you the picture, the dove blinks when it's sitting on that nest. That's about it. But that dove is immovable. Our Father's immovable as he's planted over us. He's placed over us, protecting us and taking care of us. And of course, the Jewish sages apply this word to the idea of covering for protection. There's definitely protection there. And Rabbi Samson Hirsch related the word to the idea of covering and concealing, hiding away in that place. So when you think of hiding away, that takes us back to the verse that talks about the secret place of Yahweh and dwelling in the shadow of his wings. Again, here we are picturing this bird analogy. That why we keep going there. Yahweh has a reason and a purpose for it. But he also relates Eber to barar, Barar. And that means to cleanse and to purify. Remember, when words are close, they have meaning that adds to the meaning of the other words. So when we relate that cleansing and that purifying, that can take us back to verse 2. We've already went back to verse 1 with what was said, but even to verse 2, where we say that the chasah was a refuge, which also means an atonement. In fact, this verse goes on to say that under his kanaf, remember, that's the word for wings. We're not completely there yet, but I'm going to jump in there for a moment anyway. That idea of the wings spread out to be a covering for protection. And that's where we're going to find that refuge. That's also where we find that atonement. Hallelujah for that. Two different words mean the same thing, or we think they mean the same thing. They don't mean entirely the same thing. Yahweh has a purpose for it. So there has to be some difference between when we look at feathers and wings, although the words are different, they seem to mean the same, but do they? Because Eber is rendered as wings and kanaf is also rendered as wings, but kanaf has that idea of a skirt or the corner of a garment that flaps in the wind. Okay, so it's almost with kanaf, we have this idea of these flapping wings, and it is under the flapping of these wings that we take for refuge or find atonement. And so think about that. Just think about that. And there's refuge under those wings, and those wings are moving. And then it reminds me of the spirit that moved upon the waters. My mind goes there as well. So there's refuge and atonement as well as trust as when we see these words come together. And so if we look at kanaf as the flapping of wings, and it comes from this old Persian word, which would mean when the guards are protecting someone and there's danger. So danger has arrived. What they would do is they would thrust the people that they're protecting in the corner, and then they would spread their arms around the individuals and objects, protecting and making themselves a human shield to protect those that were under their protection. And that's what these wings are doing. These wings become our shield. Well, can we have a better shield than the Yah Most High? So here we have that word shield again. Okay. So we have a picture of Yahweh. He's covering us. He's nurturing us. He's protecting us, but he's also concealing us from danger. And if that danger comes close, he's going to put us in the corner, and he's going to make sure that nothing comes near us, because he's going to spread his arms, his wings as that shield, and he will flap them violently to make sure nothing comes near. that is, the sages say that's concealing us from view. So who are we being concealed from? We're being concealed from the view of the enemy. If the enemy approaches us, he's standing there. Yahweh is standing there, and the enemy won't see us. All they'll see is our mighty Yah. Now, can you imagine seeing our mighty Yah stand and take the stage? Who would not run and hide? That is powerful. It's not, the enemy's not coming against us, though he may think he is. He comes against Yahweh, and who shows up, and as he's protecting us and shielding us and loving us and nurturing us, it's Yahweh who begins to violently flap his wings and make himself known in all of who he is, and the enemy has to flee. Now, I want to relate something else to this word too as we continue. Do you get all these word pictures? Is it blessing you? I hope it is, that it's comforting you and it's giving you further understanding. But it's interesting that Abram, which is Abraham, it's before his name was changed, but it's Strong's number 87. So you have all those words right there together, 82, 84, and 87. And we know that Abram means exalted father, but he has that same root of E-B-E-R, which is wing. Okay. And it, just as we just discussed, it's symbolically to protect, and it's strength. There's strength in that protection. And that strength also provides protection for others. Just as Yahweh shields us and protects us. Here now, as we even see Abram brought into the mix, we also see another role we play, because we should also be a shield and protection and provide strength and covering for others. So you may say, what does a feather have to do with strength? Again, that idea, the wing is always connected in scripture with that idea of covering, but also to hide and enclose, which we see in this verse, as well as the strength and the power. But also in Isaiah 31:5, in fact, I don't think we went there. Did we go to Isaiah 31:5?
No, not yet.
Okay, let's do that real quick.
All right. So Isaiah 31:5 says, like flying birds to Yahweh of hosts will protect Jerusalem. He will protect and deliver it. He will pass over and rescue it.
Okay. Here again, we have that picture of Yahweh protecting his people. Whatever is placed beneath the wings is protected. Whomever is placed beneath the wings is protected. So the ancients also called that bird's wing Canaan, and we see that, in Malachi 4:2, where it says, but unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. And that word is Canaan. And you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. It was that picture, this picture of all those who've reached out for healing. Maybe that woman with the issue of blood, and she acted upon it because there was healing in his wings. Yes, we understand that talit represents the wings, but there's so much depth here. So we as individuals, just as I just said, just as we are covered and protected by his wings, we have that job too. We are the hands and feet of Yeshua. If we are his hands and feet, we're connected to his head, and we're all doing one thing. So we need to protect others who are in that helpless state, who are under our charge, who are at a crossroads. We're there to protect them. And there's healing that comes with that. We're there to love them and nurture them. And it's a picture of what he does for us, but yet our job is to do the same. Our job is to do the same. And that's what we see Abraham doing. Abram. He's the exalted father, but he shielded and protected and did all of these things. All of these things. In fact, it's really interesting when you look at the gematria, because of Isaac, which is, guess what? The same as feathers, Abra. So, or some would say wings. So we see there has to be a relationship between Isaac and Abram and the wings or the feathers, because Isaac, like Abraham, they both became a sanctuary for others to rest in and to resort to. So though the promised land was given to Abraham, It was Isaac who actually lived there, and he never left. He held fast to the promise of Yah's word. He held fast. So looking at feathers, he covers us with his strength and his power. He is our protection. He is the one who flaps his wings violently if an enemy approaches, so that we are hidden from and concealed. And when we become one with him, when we become when we go into his house and we become part of his family, he is the head over all things. When we surrender our life, he anoints us, he redeems us, and he gives us life back. And in that way, we are able to do the works of Yeshua. Just as we are protected, covered, loved, nurtured, so do we do that for others. So that is we'll end this segment of our teaching this evening. And I hope you guys got something from it. And we'll go back and study that stuff out on your own. Don't believe a word I say. Don't believe a word any teacher says. You go study it out on your own, because you're responsible for that. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, thanks for joining us. Give us a thumbs up, share, and go to our YouTube channel and you can look at these as well as all of the messages that we give out in our tour portions as well. And we would love to share that information with you guys. And if you would consider partnering with us, go to Life of Worship Amarillo, www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org, and partner with us. We need partners to continue to get this word out. Anyway, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. And until next time, shalom.
Shalom.